Welcome to your Tuesday edition of FreightWaves Now. We got some exciting news all across the country. Outbound tender rejects, the port of Savannah, and oil markets. Huge news.
Welcome to FreightWaves Weather, your Tuesday edition. I'm FreightWaves Meteorologist Nick Austin. Hope you're having a good week so far, but yeah, for anyone that has to go through Houston, more soaking rain today. That's really the one focus as far as the lower 48 states. There will be showers and storms in other regions of the country, even some high elevation light snow or snow rain mix out in some western states. But the real problem spot is going to be in the Houston metro area. This is for Houston, Galveston, coastal areas of the Houston metropolitan area as well, across southeast Texas. There's a little disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico. Low chance that it'll turn into anything like a tropical storm, but it's pumping plenty of Gulf of Mexico moisture up into the southeast coast of Texas. So along the I-10 corridor, from eastern Texas, maybe even to parts of southwestern Louisiana, flash flooding is going to be a major risk. It's likely going to happen in a lot of spots. This is going to be a lot of persistent, just on and off heavy periods of rainfall today and tonight, maybe even to the first part of Wednesday. So that's going to be the one trouble spot as far as rain. As I mentioned, there will be scattered areas of rain and thunderstorms elsewhere, but we're not expecting a lot of severe storms or potential for flash flooding in many other parts of the country. Houston's really going to be, unfortunately, the hot spot for that. Next, we're going to go out to the Atlantic Ocean. We still have Hurricane Humberto, which is going to be tracking slowly over the next couple of days towards Bermuda. Probably not a direct hit, not a major impact on freight movement through these shipping lanes, but a lot of the ocean freighters out there will certainly have to steer around the storm. There might be just some minor delays because of that over the next several days. So not going to cause major problems. Here's Bermuda right here, right on the middle of the screen. It's going to brush probably to the north of Bermuda, but still going to cause a lot of high surf. And folks on the island of Bermuda, by around tomorrow night or Wednesday, we'll probably start to really see the winds kicking in and also some bands of heavy rain. Last, we're going to go to another part of the Atlantic Ocean, well south of where Humberto is, and we have another tropical disturbance out here that could, over the next several days as we go through the rest of the week, might get strong enough and better organized that it could become the next named tropical storm later on this week. It's possible that eventually, as it moves westward through the Atlantic, it could head towards the Caribbean, some of the Caribbean islands here, including maybe even the Virgin Islands eventually, or there's a good chance that it'll stay to the north of those areas and just remain out at sea. That still remains to be seen, but we'll certainly keep an eye on everything that's happening in the tropics out in the Atlantic Basin. This is prime time. Even for the next couple of weeks, there's good chances that more storms will develop. That's what you need to know for today. Have a great Tuesday out there and be careful.
Welcome to your carrier update, sponsored by AT&T Business. My name's Kyle Cunningham. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. Huge moves up in the outbound tender rejects all across the country. Let's go ahead and take a look at this tree map here. You can see all this green on this side of the wall is showing huge moves up. These are some big numbers. We haven't seen numbers this big in a few months. 922% in Saginaw, 715% in Detroit. What's the reasoning for these? Well, as you know, there's a big strike going on up in the peninsula, and you can see right here as we go to the next chart, you're going to be able to see exactly what's going on out on the peninsula in Michigan. Now, what's happening is that this capacity crunch is turning over and even picking up a little bit of outbound tender rejections in Toledo, Ohio, up 364% at 16.4%, showing a lot of carrier favorability all across the same area as well. So Detroit 28%, Saginaw 44%. Let's move over to the next one. We'll take a look and see what's going on in terms of outbound tender volume out on that peninsula. You can see here Saginaw, extreme moves upwards. Also white line here, Detroit, orange line Toledo, and the yellow line Grand Rapids, all moving upwards. Toledo staying a little bit flat, but still, if you have capacity up in that area, take a look and see what's going on. You might find yourself an advantage. Look at this map. Bright blue, meaning advantages for you, the carrier. Let's go ahead and take a look in the next chart, seeing what's going on. South Bend, Indiana. Right nearby, what's happening? You've got an outbound tender reject increase of 4%, 70% overnight, up to 9.7, approaching that 10% carrier favorability. And you can see here on this heat map, the outbound tender rejects by lane all the big rejections are heading from South Bend into Saginaw, Detroit, Toledo, Grand Rapids. So once again, this capacity crunch is spilling over into other markets. So let's take a look at the next chart, move over a little bit on the other side of the country, Augusta, Maine. The tender lead time, no change on that one. 3 days to cover up on that peninsula in Maine. But what's happening in terms of outbound rejects? You've got an increase overnight at 28.9%. into 10% above, looking good for carriers. You can see here for the month of August, it basically stayed pretty flat under that 10%. Right now, approaching a higher level, you can see a possible increase up to 13%. If we go back to June and take a look, you can see an increase all the way up to 20%. So a Maine is your main one to look at if you got capacity up in that area. As always, stay tuned to your carrier update every single day, sponsored by AT&T Business.
Hi, I'm John Kingston. I'm the oil expert for Sonar, for FreightWaves Sonar, and I'm here to talk about oil markets. Obviously, I'm sure everybody by now knows about the attacks on the Saudi facilities over the weekend by either the Houthi rebels from Yemen, their patrons in Tehran. We really don't know. We're not going to talk about that today. Let's talk about what it means for the oil market. The oil market is about 100 million barrels a day. The outages in Saudi Arabia were about 5.7 million barrels a day. That's very easy math to do. 5.7% of a loss of supply. A commodity market that suddenly loses 5.7% of its supply all in one shot, that is enormous. There really hasn't been anything like that in the history of the oil market, that much of a loss of supply. I think the only one that really might come close would be the Iranian Revolution in 1979. So markets reacted as you would have expected them to. Yesterday on Monday, they were up about maybe 14%. Luckily for the trucking sector and the rail sector, the diesel market was the one that actually went up the least. So that's a silver lining in all this problem. Today, Tuesday, overnight and into Tuesday, prices retreated a little bit, which is kind of what you'd expect. Whenever you have these big price spikes, inevitably the next day there's a little bit of a pullback. I don't think anybody in the market thinks that that means it's all over with. So what's this going to mean going forward? I think you're going to see, you've already seen wholesale diesel prices at what's known in the industry as the rack. They're up about 15 cents a gallon. I think what we see in the DTS.USA data on Sonar also is an increase of about 10 to 15 cents. My colleague Donnie Gilbert just told me he saw a greedy retail station that went up 30 cents. That's not really justified by anything in the commodity markets. What's next? I think really today on Tuesday, the story that everybody's looking at the most, that really has kind of got everybody on edge, is a very good story by Bloomberg saying that the Saudi talk about a very quick recovery of supply is not likely to happen. It could take weeks or months for this to go on. I think the next big question is going to be, do the Western economies that hold strategic stocks, like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in the U.S., when do they start opening up those tanks and putting those supplies into the market? Quite frankly, this is exactly what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was set up to do. You put oil away, it's a rainy day fund. You put oil away at one point and you let it out when you need it. It has come out over the years at certain times. Came out in 2011 during the Libya problems. Came out in 1990 during the Iraq War. This is the time, I think, when oil is going to be released from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. You usually do that in the U.S. in coordination with other countries of the International Energy Agency. It's going to be an interesting few days, few weeks, few months. It's going to go on for quite some time. We'll be back to talk about it tomorrow. Thank you.
I'm joined now by Henry Byers, our maritime expert. Henry, what's going on down in Georgia?
The Port of Savannah is doing extremely well. You know, part of this is a result of the trade war and just a general shift of shippers routing their international shipments, especially container shipments, via the Port of Savannah. But as you can see, last month, we're actually tracking the number of bills of ladings, the number of shipments that are coming through these ports. So the three largest gateways, Savannah showed a 19% growth in August, whereas you saw LAX, which is in the green line, down 5%, and Newark, New Jersey down 2%. And like I said, shippers are just finding Savannah more attractive. There's less congestion currently. The way they're expanding the port with the dual rail service that they just announced, I wanted to actually point that out and why that's going to be important moving forward. Absolutely.
And so the dual rail, explain that a little bit. Where is it heading to from the origin in Georgia?
Sure. So the Port of Savannah for international containers currently is not capturing a lot of the traffic that would be moving to Chicago. And between Newark, New Jersey and LAX, they handle a majority of the volumes moving into there, other than Seattle and Prince Rupert. But you can see Savannah is actually half the distance to Chicago than LAX is to Chicago. So that's meaningful. So you have CSX rail line in pink, and you have Norfolk Southern in purple. So what they're essentially going to do is offer the ability with the Mason Mega Rail, which is the on-dock rail facility, be able to build 10,000-foot trains right off the port in Savannah, and they'll be able to have a 3 to 4 day transit to Chicago, because a lot of these shippers in Chicago can't necessarily, can't afford to relocate their distribution centers, much like the top 10, top 100 importers can. So this is going to be a very viable option for them. So I wanted to look at the 40-foot rail volumes.
Yeah, let's take a look.
So now we're capturing the total intermodal container traffic in OD pairs throughout the entire country. And so I wanted to show, I've been talking a lot about the shift from West Coast to East Coast in terms of volume as an effect from the trade war, and just generally finding that a more effective option with the Suez Canal routings. But you see Newark, New Jersey noted in the red, and you see the lane to Chicago. So you see that's grown substantially relative to LAX to Chicago, which is in blue. But you can see Savannah to Chicago is basically non-existent for 40-foot containers.
Four 40-foot containers,
right?
Last
week, exactly. So this is, they're noting how New Jersey and New York is actually, capturing a lot of that, and they don't want to miss out. And they're building out their port around those specific, Chicago distribution centers, the guys who are up there saying, hey, come down here. And some of those guys just can't afford it. So they're saying, hey, we're gonna come to you guys. And this is their way to do it. So I wanted to show just how massive, it is for Savannah to have this ability, but just look at what's happened recently with the distribution centers that have been built there. So if you look here, just right off Port Wentworth, you're gonna see places like Target, Home Depot, Pier 1, Dollar Tree, Gulfstream. All these guys have built facilities right here next to Savannah because they just see this as the future.
They understand that it's Georgia's coming up. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in North Georgia. I know that there is another rail facility. Is that correct?
Sure. Well, GE Appliances just announced that they're putting a distribution center right near that inland port, the Appalachian Regional Port, which is in in Calhoun, Georgia. So, Mohawk, Shaw, a lot of big shippers up in that area, but more importantly, there's a lot of room to grow. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of open room to put DCs. There's generally cheaper labor. It's more cost effective for people to live down here, and people also, from a worker standpoint, enjoy experiencing 4 seasons where it's not so hot, not so cold. You generally get those 4 seasons. So all those factors combined are playing into the Port of Savannah being the future of maritime container imports for the U.S.
Really exciting news. Anything else for us?
They expect between 2030 and 2035 to be pushing 11 million TEUs annually through this port, which is aggressive, but I think very reasonable.
Hey, that's the news. Georgia, big moves coming in the future. As always, thanks, Henry. Thanks for watching FreightWaves Now. Stay tuned tomorrow for more updates.